So, the Georgia Guidestones. Were they built by a secret society? It's the question everyone asks. It's the reason they were famous, and it's the reason someone finally blew them up. The short answer is, we don't know for sure. But the long answer, the story behind it, is way more interesting than a simple yes or no. The evidence points in some very strange directions, and when you follow the clues, the idea of a secret society doesn't seem so crazy after all. The whole thing started on a Friday afternoon in June 1979. A man walked into the office of the Elberton Granite Finishing Company in Elberton, Georgia. Elberton is the self-proclaimed granite capital of the world. If you wanted to build something big and permanent out of stone, this was the place to go. The man was well-dressed. He was articulate and polite. He told the company president, a guy named Joe Fendley, that he wanted to build a monument. But this wasn't just any monument. It was going to be huge. It would need to withstand catastrophe. It would need to function as a compass, a calendar, and a clock. And most importantly, it would have a set of 10 guides carved into it, written in 8 different languages. The man said he represented a small group of loyal Americans. He said they had been planning this for over 20 years. He said his name was R.C. Christian. Fendley thought he was dealing with a nut. The scale of the project was enormous. The cost would be astronomical. He tried to give the man a ridiculously high quote to get him to go away. But R.C. Christian didn't flinch. He just nodded and said he had the money. He explained that his group wanted to remain anonymous forever. The name R.C. Christian was a pseudonym. A fake name. This is where the story gets its first real hook. A mysterious man with a fake name and a ton of money wants to build a cryptic monument in the middle of the field. He claims to represent a secret group. Right from the start, this wasn't a public works project. It was deliberately and carefully designed to be a mystery. To handle the money and the legal side of things, Fendley sent Christian to a local banker named Wyatt Martin. Martin was the only other person who would learn Christian's real name. He had to sign a confidentiality agreement promising he would never reveal it. Martin said Christian told him his group believed humanity was on a path to self-destruction. The Cold War was raging. Overpopulation was a major concern. They felt a global disaster was inevitable. The Guidestones were meant to be a set of instructions for the survivors. A simple guide to help rebuild civilization wisely without repeating the same mistakes. Christian was specific. The monument had to have 4 giant granite slabs, each 19 feet tall, arranged in a paddle wheel design. A central pillar would stand in the middle, and a capstone would sit on top of everything. The whole thing needed to be aligned with the sun and the stars. A hole through the center stone would point to the North Star. A slot in the capstone would track the sun, marking noon every day of the year. It was a modern Stonehenge built with a specific, almost mystical purpose. And then there were the 10 guides. These were the core of the message, the whole point of the monument. They were to be carved in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian. On the capstone, a shorter message would be written in 4 ancient languages: Babylonian cuneiform, Classical Greek, Sanskrit, and Egyptian hieroglyphs. The message was simple: let these be guidestones to an age of reason. Wyatt Martin tried to get more information. He asked Christian where he was from. Christian would just say he came from a state with a major city on the East Coast. He'd fly into an airport, rent a car, drive to Elberton for his meetings, and then disappear again. Martin said he was convinced the man and his group were serious, and that their intentions were good. He kept his promise of secrecy for decades. He even destroyed all the records and correspondence with Christian after the project was finished, as instructed. Construction took about a year. It was a massive undertaking. They had to cut over 100 tons of granite from a local quarry. The lettering alone was a huge job, with over 4,000 characters carved into the stone. The monument was finally unveiled on March 22, 1980, to a small crowd of a few hundred people. And almost immediately the controversy started. The guides themselves were the problem. They sound reasonable at first, but the more you think about them, the darker they seem. The very first one is the most famous and the most chilling: maintain humanity under 500 million in a perpetual balance with nature. Let's stop and think about that. At the time, the world population was over 4 billion. Today, it's over 8 billion. To get down to 500 million would require eliminating more than 90% of the people on Earth. This single sentence became the foundation for almost every conspiracy theory about the Guidestones. Was this a guide for survivors of a natural apocalypse? Or was it a mission statement for a group that wanted to cause an apocalypse? This is where the secret society theories really take root. A normal civic group doesn't commission a monument calling for the elimination of most of the human race. This sounds like the plan of a hidden, powerful organization that sees humanity as a plague on the planet. There's a group that believes it has the right to decide who lives and who dies. The second guide is just as troubling. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Guide reproduction. Who gets to do the guiding? What does improving fitness mean? To many, this sounded like a clear call for eugenics, the disgusting and discredited practice of trying to improve the human race through selective breeding. It's the kind of thinking that fueled Nazi Germany. It's not a philosophy you find in a public park. It's the kind of idea discussed in secret by people who believe they are superior to everyone else. The other guides are a mix of New Age philosophy and globalist ideals, unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion to faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. On the surface, some of this sounds okay, but when you put it all together, it paints a picture. A single world language, a single world court, a global government ruling with tempered reason instead of faith or tradition. This is the exact blueprint for what conspiracy theorists call the New World Order. The New World Order theory posits that a secret cabal of global elites is working to destroy national sovereignty and create a one-world authoritarian government. To people who believe this, the Georgia Guidestones were not a warning. They were a declaration. A set of commandments for their new world hidden in plain sight. They saw the call for population control and guided reproduction as a direct threat, a plan for mass genocide and social engineering. So, who was this group? Who was R.C. Christian? The name itself is the biggest clue. Many researchers believe R.C. Christian is a direct reference to Christian Rosicrucians, the legendary founder of the Rosicrucian order. The Rosicrucianism is a classic example of a Western esoteric society. It emerged in Europe in the 17th century with a series of anonymous manifestos. The manifestos told the story of a man named Christian Rosicrucians who had traveled to the Middle East and learned secret knowledge about nature, the universe, and the spiritual realm. He returned to Germany and founded a secret order to protect and share this wisdom. The Rosicrucians were supposedly masters of alchemy and esoteric arts, working behind the scenes to bring about a universal reformation of mankind. The parallels are hard to ignore. A secret group working to reform humanity, or a founder with the name Christian R. The use of a pseudonym, a philosophy focused on reason and harmony with nature. The Guidestones' message, especially the call for an age of reason, fits perfectly with Rosicrucian philosophy. They see themselves as enlightened individuals guiding humanity toward a better future. The idea of leaving a cryptic, permanent message for future generations is exactly the kind of thing they would do. For a long time, the Rosicrucian connection was the leading theory. It felt right. It explained the secrecy, the name, and the philosophical tone of the guides. It suggested the sponsors were not necessarily evil, but perhaps arrogant visionaries who saw themselves as humanity's secret guardians. Maybe they truly believed a great culling was necessary for the long-term survival of the species and the planet. But there are other candidates too. The Freemasons are another secret society often linked to the Guidestones. Like the Rosicrucians, they have a history of secrecy, symbolism, and a belief in a universal creator, or great architect of the universe. They are famous for their connection to stonemasonry and building. The precise astronomical alignments of the Guidestones are also a hallmark of Masonic interest, echoing their fascination with geometry, ancient structures like the pyramids and Stonehenge, and the harmony of the cosmos. Many of America's founding fathers were Freemasons. They embedded Masonic symbols into the very fabric of the nation, on our currency and in the land of Washington, D.C. The idea that a Masonic group would continue this tradition, creating a monument to guide America's future, isn't a huge leap. The call for a world court and a rational world order aligns with some interpretations of Masonic philosophy, which promotes universal brotherhood and peace. The difference is mostly one of public perception. The Freemasons, while secretive, are a known quantity. They have lodges in most towns. They're a fraternal order. The Rosicrucians are more obscure, more mystical, and the New World Order is not a formal society at all, but a shadowy concept of a global elite that could include members of many groups, politicians, bankers, and yes, members of secret societies. For years, the mystery just sat there, carved in granite. People would visit the Guidestones. Some would leave flowers, others would spray paint graffiti, calling them satanic or messages from the Antichrist. The local community in Elbert County mostly just accepted them as a weird but effective tourist attraction. They brought people to the town, they were a local landmark. But the internet changed everything. In the age of online forums and YouTube documentaries, the Georgia Guidestones became a global phenomenon. They were no longer just a local oddity, they were Exhibit A in the case against the global elite. They were proof, carved in stone, that a powerful group was planning to kill us all. The population control message was linked to everything from vaccines to climate change policies. The Guidestones became a symbol for a deep and growing distrust of authority. Filmmakers and researchers tried to uncover the truth. A documentary in 2015 claimed to have identified the real R.C. Christian. They pointed to a man from Iowa named Herbert Kirsten, a doctor who was an admirer of Thomas Paine and a proponent of population control. Kirsten had written a book about creating a rational world government. His friends said he held strong beliefs about the need to control human population to save the environment. He also had connections to the Rosicrucians. It's a compelling theory, but it's never been definitively proven. And even if Kirsten was R.C. Christian, he still claimed to be representing a group. Who were they? Another clue emerged from a time capsule. The explanatory tablet set up near the Guidestones mentioned that a time capsule was buried 6 feet below it. But the date for when the capsule should be opened was left blank. This just added to the mystery. What was in it? Who was meant to open it and when? Some believe the blank space was the final piece of the puzzle, a sign that the event that would reduce the world's population had not yet happened. Once it did, the survivors would know it was time to open the capsule. The banker, Wyatt Martin, held onto the secret for decades. He died in 2021. And as far as we know, he took the real identity of R.C. Christian and his group to the grave. He always maintained that the group's intentions were noble. He said they were a small, quiet group of Americans who were genuinely concerned about the future of humanity. He dismissed the satanic and New World Order theories as nonsense. He said they just wanted to leave a message of common sense. But is it common sense to call for a 90% reduction in the human population? Is it common sense to advocate for guiding reproduction? It's hard to square the banker's benign description with the cold, hard words on the stone. Either the group was incredibly naive about how their message would be received, or they knew exactly what they were saying. And if they knew, then their intentions were anything but simple. The story of the Guidestones took its final, dramatic turn in the early morning hours of July 6, 2022. An explosion rocked the rural Georgia site. Surveillance video showed an unknown person planting an explosive device at the base of the monument. The blast destroyed one of the main slabs and destabilized the entire structure. Later that day, for safety reasons, county officials brought in heavy equipment and demolished what was left. Just like that, America's Stonehenge was gone. The monument designed to survive a global catastrophe couldn't even survive a single person with a bomb. The act of destruction was the ultimate expression of the fear and anger the Guidestones had inspired for over 40 years. Someone or some group decided they couldn't tolerate the message any longer. They saw it as a monument to evil and they tore it down. The destruction didn't solve the mystery. It sealed it. Now, no one can ever truly prove who built them. The physical evidence is gone. All we have is the story, the photographs, and the lingering question. So did a secret society create the Georgia Guidestones? All the evidence points to yes. It wasn't the city of Elberton. It wasn't the state of Georgia. It was a private group that demanded total, permanent anonymity. They used a fake name loaded with esoteric meaning. They spent a fortune on a project with no commercial value. They laid out a 10-point plan for a new world order that includes population control, eugenics, and a global government. This is the very definition of what a secret society does. They work from the shadows. They believe they possess a superior wisdom or a special destiny. They communicate through symbols and cryptic messages. Whether you call them the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, or just the sponsors of R.C. Christian, their actions fit the pattern perfectly. They weren't a secret society in the sense of a Hollywood movie, with cloaks and daggers and secret handshakes in a castle. They were likely a group of wealthy, educated, and powerful individuals, maybe doctors, scientists, and academics, people who had come to a very dark conclusion about the future of humanity. They saw the masses as a problem to be managed, a herd to be culled. They believed they were the shepherds, the wise men who knew what was best for the planet, even if it meant the elimination of billions of people. The Georgia Guidestones were their thesis statement, carved in granite for all the world to see, yet understood by only a few. It was an audacious act. They were hiding in plain sight. They were telling us their plan. That's what made the monument so terrifying to so many people. It wasn't just a weird rock formation. It was a threat. The destruction of the Guidestones was a violent answer to the question they posed. The builders wanted to guide humanity into an age of reason. The person who blew them up seemed to be screaming that humanity didn't want that kind of guidance, especially not from a faceless group with a god complex. The monument is gone, but the story is more powerful than ever. It's a story about knowledge and power, about fear of the unknown, and about who gets to decide the future of the human race. We will probably never know the real name of R.C. Christian. We will never know the names of the people in his group. In the end, they got what they wanted. They remain a secret, and their strange, cold message will be debated for as long as people remember the bizarre monument that once stood on a hill in Georgia. It was almost certainly the work of a secret society, because only a group with a secret, world-changing agenda would go to such lengths to build it.